Hey guys, how's it going? So, I've been doing a lot of research, as you guys know, into some of this stuff over the last couple of years. And lately, I've dug a little deeper into it, and it really does seem like Comet ISON might be the object that the Jews, the ancient Hebrews, and the Mayans were describing. So I want to show you why I say that. So the Mayans had inscribed on this monument here. This is called Monument 6. It's in some museum in Mexico. Anyway, I have a video on this if you haven't seen it yet, it's linked below where I go into detail on it. I looked at three different archaeological teams that translated this or tried to translate it, and they all agreed on basic points. They all agreed that there were certain portions of the text that they could not translate, and they all agreed that it was in reference to the date December 21st, 2012. Um, and they all agreed that it was talking about a great event, but the event itself, they pretty much all agreed that it was either one of two things. Something would either become visible or it would descend in association with that date. Okay. We know that a lot of ancient cultures started their year on either the equinox or the solstice. So, because December 21st is the winter solstice, that could have been the first day of the year of this ancient culture, whoever it was that inscribed this on this monument. That ancient culture, the ancient culture. So I realize what people are saying about the recent Mayan culture and what their legends are. But what I'm saying is it could be that this monument or the information on the monument is much older than what they realize, and so it could be stemming from a much more ancient culture, and that ancient culture could have started their year on the winter solstice. So if that's true, then they could have been pointing to this entire year, meaning from the solstice of 2012, winter solstice of 2012 until the winter solstice of 2013, saying that something would become visible in that year, because there are portions of this that they were unable to translate. But what they were able to translate was that something would become visible and or descend. Okay. Um, so what some scientists are saying is that Comet ISON, they expect, might be the comet of this century. We won't really know until it gets here, because sometimes the comets, they fizzle out. So we don't really know what's going to happen. But what I'm thinking is that this could have been the apocalyptic event that was described in the Dresden Codex. So in the Mayan monuments, besides Monument 6, there were these Mayan texts, basically. And one of them, from what I gather, is called the Dresden Codex. And according to the scholars dating back 500 years, most of them agreed. Harvard scholars, archaeologists from all over agreed that the Dresden Codex was describing a great cataclysm that happened. And Monument 6 apparently doesn't say anything about the cataclysm, but it does say that something will become visible or descend. Okay, but here's the thing: the the Egyptians had this, their texts and their monuments surrounded around the story of Isis, Osiris, and Horus, their son Horus. Okay, and so that was the myth. Isis is associated with the star Sirius. And so Horus was born out of Isis. In other words, Horus came from the star system Sirius. Osiris is associated with the constellation Orion, and Isis is also associated with the constellation Taurus because of these bull horns up here. So we have Orion and Taurus, and in the middle, this object that comes out of Sirius. Okay, so you can see that Orion and Taurus are next to each other, and Sirius is down here. And I've talked about this in a lot of my other videos. A lot of it's linked below. How there's this blacked out square in Google Sky right here several years back, and then there was another blacked out square right around in here somewhere, which was interesting, and I don't know if it means anything, but if there is an object that acts like a circumbinary planet in that it orbits two suns, then that could be what the Egyptians were alluding to, that this object comes from Sirius and enters our solar system between Orion and Taurus. So it comes from here and enters into our solar system right about in here somewhere between Orion and Taurus. Okay, I mean, I'm just kind of proposing that idea. If that's true, that would kind of lend some validity to Zecharia Sitchin and his investigation. Maybe not necessarily Zecharia Sitchin, but the idea of an object called Nibiru that is a celestial object. So anybody that's really investigated Zecharia Sitchin knows that he was wrong about some stuff. I'm not saying he was wrong about everything, but his translations were not 100%. But I don't really think anybody's translations of ancient texts are 100%, so I'm not attacking him in any way. But a lot of scholars have come out and said, no, Zecharia Sitchin doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, the truth is, he did know what he was talking about somewhat. I'm not saying he was right in his translations about everything, but he did know what he was talking about. Nibiru is a legitimate word in the Babylonian astronomy, in the Akkadian language. It means crossing or point of transition. But while Zecharia Sitchin said that it was a planet, in the Akkadian folklore, or whatever you want to call it, it was actually a star. So it says right here, Nibiru is Marduk's star. This is coming from the Enuma Elish. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Marduk's star, which he made appear in the heavens. The stars of heaven let him set their course. Let him shepherd all the gods like sheep. That's Nibiru they're talking about. And then there's a cuneiform tablet that says, this is coming from Wolfram von Soden. Okay, wrote this book. It's a German translation of this cuneiform tablet. Nibiru, which is said to have occupied the passageways of heaven and earth, because everyone above and below asks Nibiru if they cannot find the passage. Nibiru is Marduk's star, which the gods in heaven cause to be visible. Nibiru stands as a Nibiru stands as a post at the turning point. Okay. The others say of Nibiru the post, The one who crosses the middle of the sea without calm, may his name be Nibiru, because he takes up the center of it. The path of the stars or the sky should be kept unchanged. Okay, so Nibiru literally means crossing or point of transition. Okay, so, and it's a star. So here's the thing. The Binary Research Institute claims that they have scientific evidence that Sirius, the star Sirius, is rotating around our sun or vice versa, that our sun and the star Sirius are orbiting each other. So that's what they're investigating right now, and they claim they have scientific evidence of that we live in a binary solar system, and that our sun is orbiting around, or that our sun and Sirius, the star system Sirius, are orbiting each other. What I'm thinking is there could be a third star that is invisible to the human eye, such as a brown dwarf. So a brown dwarf star is not visible in the visible light spectrum. It's only visible in the infrared light spectrum. So if there's a third star that acts like a circumbinary planet, orbits around Sirius, then crosses over and orbits around our star and then back again, then that could be Nibiru, Marduk's star, the brown dwarf star. Okay, I'm not saying that it's going to come in here and hit us or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it could be out there. And it could have at some point in the ancient past dislodged asteroids and comets in the outer Oort cloud, which surrounds our solar system. So if that's true, then it could be true that in the ancient past, ancient past, there could have been a cataclysm caused by an asteroid cluster that came from this area of the solar system. So sometimes when these objects are dislodged, they become comets, and they end up orbiting us. They fall toward the sun, and they usually, I mean, from what I gather, and I'm not an astronomer, what I gather, they usually will follow the angular momentum of the solar system. So like they'll start falling into the sun, like, if this dislodged some asteroids or comets, they'll fall into the sun, but they kind of fall with the motion of the solar system. The solar system is rotating counterclockwise. All the planets of the solar system are rotating counterclockwise if you view from north of the ecliptic. So if you're looking down at the solar system from the north, the planets are rotating this way. So a lot of, or maybe most of, the comets and the asteroids, if they had been dislodged out here, would kind of fall in that direction, because that's the angular momentum. Okay, which gets into a whole nother thing that I don't really know much about, but the point is, they wouldn't just directly fall in like that. They'd kind of circle around like this. So this is where Comet ISON is coming from. It's coming from Gemini. So here's where it is right about now. It's in Gemini. So if we take out the atmosphere and we go back a couple of years, you'll see that it pretty much stays right here in Gemini for years. And we could go all the way back to the 1800s, and it's still right there in Gemini. So if we go forward again to where we are right now, you'll see that it starts moving right around the turn of the millennium. So, right around, there it goes, right around 2005, it starts moving. And then in 2012 and 2013, it moves much faster. So, right now in July of 2013, it's right here. Next month, it'll be in Cancer. And then in October, it'll be in Leo, where they say that if you have binoculars or a good telescope, you might be able to see it in October. And then in November, it'll be in Leo. I'm sorry, Virgo. Okay. So here's the thing. Let me just show you this really quick. All right, so this is what it looks like. It starts. It's coming from Gemini. It's coming from Gemini, and then it travels. It stays here most of the time because it's coming from way, way out here, and then now it's going to circle around our sun this year, and it starts moving next month in August. It moves into Cancer, then through Leo, and then through Virgo. And then it's going to keep going and it'll whip around the sun and then go back out. Okay, here's what's so interesting about this. First of all, it's coming from this exact direction that the Egyptians seem to have pinpointed somehow. The Egyptians had somehow indicated that there might be this object entering our solar system between Taurus and Gemini, that it was coming from the Sirius star system. Now we find out that scientists have evidence that Sirius might actually be our binary twin. There might be this other brown dwarf star that's orbiting both Sirius and our sun, called Nibiru. Okay, that we can't see. But the other thing is there's all these comets and asteroids that have been dislodged by this object in the past, like it would have been in the ancient past, because obviously this thing would have broken through the Oort cloud many times. I mean, I don't really know, but I'm just guessing. Probably many times. So there's probably a little path in here. So the debris is already circling around our sun every so many thousand years. So Comet ISON, the reason why that's so interesting is because the Mayans seem to have predicted it. They said something would become visible this year in 2013, and there, scientists are saying, "Hey, this Comet ISON, it might be the comet of the century." Well, maybe it won't. Maybe it won't be anything at all for us, but it may have been something really spectacular. In fact, it may have been something apocalyptic even in the ancient times. Like maybe in the ancient times it had whipped around the sun and kind of passed in front of Earth getting caught in its tail of debris or something like that. And that could be what was described in the book of Revelation. So here's the kind of bizarre, the other point that I wanted to make. You'll notice that they're saying that it will be visible when it's in Virgo. So in November, it will be visible with the naked eye. In October, if you have binoculars, you might see it. But in November, it should be visible with the naked eye. That's what they're saying. So if you go out, let's see if I can get the right timing here. So if you go out and look to the west on November 17th, then you might see, or around there, I mean, I guess not necessarily on that day, but around there, you might see it. So around November and then December and January is when its peak visibility is supposed to be. So November, December, January. here's what kind of blew my mind. So if it's supposed to be visible in November when it's in the constellation Virgo, that's what the ancient Hebrews described. They said that a great red dragon with a tail became visible in the sky in the constellation Virgo. So if you go look at Revelation 12, it'll say, "Behold, a great sign in heaven," or a great wonder in heaven, "a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon beneath her feet, and a crown of 12 stars over her head." I have a video on this as well. It's linked below if you haven't seen it yet. The constellation Virgo already has 12 stars in her head. That's according to the astronomers. I have it in my other video explaining that. The moon is beneath her feet on October 16th, 2012. The sun is right at her birth canal. It says she's giving birth. And the dragon is there waiting to devour the child as soon as it's born. That is a reference to the myth of the god Cronus, which is also known as the god Saturn, who would devour his children as soon as they were born. As far as I know, that's the only myth that gives reference to that. So Saturn has to be here. I have a whole video on this. The point is, this sign described in Revelation 12 occurred October 16th, 2012. It's really rare. Last time it happened was 1570. The next time it happens is in 2454. But the Mayans had also pointed to 2012. So the Mayans pointed to 2012 being the start of their year on the winter solstice. They pointed to the winter solstice of 2012, which could have been the first day of their year. And they said something's going to become visible this year. That's what they said. When you get to that year, something will become visible. What the Hebrews had said is that for the ancient Hebrews, this sign occurs on the Feast of Trumpets. So I explained this in my other video. I have a video called The True Calendar or something like that. It's linked below, where I explain how they would determine which day was the first day of their year. So the Jews celebrate the Feast of Trumpets. It's called Rosh Hashanah, and it's the first day of their year. That's how they celebrate it even today. It's the first day of their year, even though it's not the first month of their year. It's the 7th month, but it's the first. They celebrate it as New Year's. It's New Year's Day, the Feast of Trumpets. It's the appointed time of trumpets. So in 2012, their Feast of Trumpets was in September, but they don't use the ancient methods for determining the timing of their feasts anymore. But if you use the ancient method for determining the timing of the Feast of Trumpets, you end up with October 16th as the Feast of Trumpets in 2012. I mean, this sign written in the book of Revelation, it happened on the Feast of Trumpets last year. The true Feast of Trumpets, I have a video on that. So you have both the Mayans and the Jews, the ancient Mayans and the ancient Hebrews, pinpointing the year 2013, basically. So the winter solstice of 2012 until the winter solstice of 2013 would have been the Mayan year, and the ancient Hebrew year would have been from October 16th, 2012 until October 2013, whenever the Feast of Trumpets is this year. And I think it's at the beginning. I think the true Feast of Trumpets using the ancient method is at the beginning of October this year. So from the Feast of Trumpets 2012 until the Feast of Trumpets 2013 was the ancient Hebrew year. So you have both the ancient Hebrews and the ancient Mayans pinpointing this year for some reason. And you have the Mayans saying something will become visible and or descend. And you have the Hebrews saying there will be a great dragon in the sky with a tail. Do you see what I'm saying? A great dragon in the sky with a tail in the constellation Virgo. So Revelation 12 says, "Behold, a wonder was in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun." That's Virgo. That's the constellation Virgo in September. The moon beneath her feet and a crown of 12 stars over her head, etc., etc., etc. That was the sign that happened October 16th, 2012. And then within that year, a year later, we have Comet ISON passing through Virgo, becoming visible in Virgo, becoming visible with the naked eye in Virgo. So so the Revelation 12 says, first you're going to see this first sign, and then another wonder. So it says, "I saw a wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun," etc., etc. And then it says, "And I saw another wonder in heaven, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. And it cast the stars," I'm paraphrasing, "it cast the stars to the earth with its tail." So a great red dragon that had a tail. And then meteorites hit the earth because of the tail of the comet. So it's literally talking about a comet. That's what Revelation 12 is describing. I just find it, I'm absolutely blown away by this. So what I think may have happened is that all of these different cultures on different sides of the earth, because I mean the ancient Hebrews, they were in the Middle East, the Mayans were on the other side of the earth, but they both have this record of this object, this comet that passed by, became visible in the constellation Virgo. There was some kind of apocalyptic event, like maybe Earth went through the tail at that time. And yeah, and I just think maybe Ison was that comet because it has the same, it's coming from the same area of the sky that the Egyptians pointed to. The Egyptians apparently, I mean, okay, I don't know how to, I can't verify this, but apparently, I mean, you could look up the Colburn Bible. And on Wikipedia, they say that they can't verify the authenticity of the Colburn Bible. The Colburn Bible is supposedly composed of ancient Egyptian texts. Um, and it talks about this destroyer, this flame that came and this apocalypse happened and everything. But if you look in all these other ancient um, texts, you find this comet everywhere in the ancient texts. They talk about this comet in the sky, this great comet that caused all this damage. I'm just saying, wow, what if it's Ison? I'm not saying that Ison is going to cause an event now. I'm saying, what if it caused an event in the ancient past? You know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, maybe the powers that be know that, but they just don't want to freak anybody out because they're not really sure. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're not completely sure that it's not going to happen. They said that there might be a meteor shower from the comet in mid-January, but they said it's just going to be dust. It's not going to be like, it's not like any kind of serious debris or anything. But I just think that it's really interesting and amazing, and I don't think that we should just throw away what these ancient Mayans said and what the ancient Egyptians said and what the ancient Hebrews said, especially when it all seems to correlate. All of these texts seem to correlate and match each other. So something's going on with this, and I'm not saying that it's going to be some huge event now. I'm saying maybe it was a huge event then. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just it. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that the Hopis also um, they had also mentioned the blue Kachina and the red Kachina. They talked about how the blue Kachina would be visible first. First, you would see the blue Kachina, and then the red Kachina would come and cleanse the earth and purify the earth. So they talked about this cataclysm that was caused by the red Kachina. The Mayans talked about Bolon Yokte. The Sumerians apparently talked about the star Nibiru. Um, the Egyptians talked about something coming from Sirius. and also entering our solar system between Orion and Taurus. And the ancient Hebrews said that something, a great red dragon with a tail would become visible in the constellation Virgo. So, it could be that um, they're all describing an event that happened in the past, is what I'm saying. And if you want to know about, the biblical stuff that I'm researching, which is really bizarre, it's stuff that it goes way beyond that. It is actually seems to have predicted things that are happening right now in the political arena right now in our world, that is very, very bizarre. And that's something that I've covered. I've done a lot of research into that, and I have a lot of videos, and I'll link them below if you want to check that out. But that is something that seems to be different from, these other ancient texts, because these other ancient texts, you could look at them and say, well, they're just describing an event that happened in the past, like the Egyptians. According to Albert Schlossman's translation of the Book of the Dead, which is also otherwise known as the Book of the Coming Forth by Day, in the Book of the Coming Forth by Day, or the Book of the Dead, whichever you want to call it, by the Egyptians, Albert Schlossman had translated that book as describing some type of cataclysm, some type of apocalypse that they survived through in the past. And in that translation, he had said that the survivors of the cataclysm returned to the earth from heaven. It's kind of implying that they were taken off the planet and then put back on the planet, which was really bizarre because that's what the Hebrew texts say, and they go into great detail about that. So I mean, it's really bizarre, and I'm I'm trying not to assume anything, but you can't deny. I mean, you can't deny. I mean, all these coincidences that are happening, and there's something going on here, and maybe it's just something that happened in the past, but maybe it is something that's going to happen again. I mean, I don't really know, and I don't know if anybody does know, but I just think it's interesting, and so I wanted to tell you guys about that. And anyway, I'm done, and I'll let you guys go. I hope you're doing well. I'm working on that document, and it's blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind how much just unbelievable information there is that just is pointing to this time period right here that we're living in as being this really crucial time period. And there's so many different reasons for it, and it's really amazing. And I hope to be done with that and have it out to you guys. I'm hoping in like 2 weeks. So I'm really, really working on that. So I apologize that I know a few people are saying, where are you? We haven't heard from you. So I just want to let you know that's what I'm working on. And you might not hear from me for another couple of weeks or something, but I am trying to get that done as fast as I can so I can get that out to you guys. And you can have like a hard copy of all of this information put together in a way that, you know, is very easy to read and just understandable with everything, all of the just all of it right there in front of you so you can look at it. So anyway, that's what I'm doing, and I hope you guys are doing well, and thank you again to everybody that's being supportive. Thank you so much. I can't even thank you enough for what you've done to support this, because I would not be here sharing this information with you if you had not been supportive. So thank you so, so much, and I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye.